Okay, hello. Once again, my name is Nick Dempster. I'm talking through how I set up an online reading record for my school. And this section is all about the Google Forms that I used to basically for parents and children to enter their reading record comments. So what I've done is I've created the Year 6 one and I've copied that. Now this is part of our kind of Year 5 reading records. I'm not going to go through every single part because a lot of this is kind of self-explanatory. But one thing I'm going to talk through is a mistake I made when I set it up initially. And I kind of learned the hard way, so hopefully you won't have to suffer the same problems that I did. So at the moment, I've got two sections on here. I've got section 1, which asks for the class and who are you reading to, which is a new thing that I've put in for our reading record starting this September. We didn't use that this time around. And then section 2, we have got the actual reading that's gone on. So the name of the book, the type of book, how many pages they've read, what's happened in the story, and so on. Again, these could be completely personalised to your school, depending on their kind of needs or what you expect your children or your parents to record. To add a question, it's really, really simple. Just press add question. So if I just delete this one, for example, and then we'll add it back in again. So we've got type of book here. I press add question. I'm typing in number of pages. If I leave it as that. And then short answer text, yes, we want that. Really important on here that if you want questions to be compulsory, make sure that you tick that required button. What I've done on the last bit, and I mentioned this in the previous video, adult observations, our Year 5 and Year 6 children definitely would be expected to read independently at times, so we wouldn't necessarily expect an adult to listen and to write a comment. So that's why that one is not compulsory or required question. And the same with new vocabulary. They might have times when they've read something and they haven't actually picked up any new vocabulary. You'd hope that they'd be reading challenging text so that they would, but it's not always the case. So that's how you add questions. One thing that is missing, and this is the kind of mistake I made, and I kind of learned the hard way from, is the name. Because I initially did this, if I just add another question and put in name, and then set that as required, and then left it as that. Now, the problem with that is that, if I just go on to preview for a second, so we can see what the reading record looks like now, is if in here, so I'm filling out, right, I'm in this class, I'm reading to a parent, and I read independently even, and here we go, I type my name, and I'm going to use my son's name. So the first time, they can put in Josh and a space, hit next, fill in the comments, hit submit. Then the second time, they could do Josh without space, hit next, fill in the comments, submit. Next time, they might put Joshua and then their surname initial, hit next, submit, and so on. Then they can type in their full surname. They might do a spell mistake. There might be more than one Joshua in the class. So, as this starts to rack up, we realised there was a problem because the Google Sheets, whilst it's very kind of clever and it does lots of fantastic things, it doesn't recognise that this is the same person, just typing their name slightly differently each time or putting a space in their name. So I kind of learned from that rather than it being a type it in, it was better to be a drop-down list. I'd like to say that I learned that pretty quickly, but unfortunately it was 600 comments in. I then had to go back and check and kind of amalgamate them all to make sure that they were combined with the right person and so on. So I learned the hard way. Hopefully you won't have to. So come out of that and show you how I kind of came around, overcame this. So let's get rid of that one. So the easiest way to do this then is to actually create 3 more sections that come after this one. So I'm going to amend this question now and press this one, add a section, and then add another section, and then add another section. Now, all of these 3 new sections are going to be just for these classes. So I'm going to call the first one 5TW, so 5TW, then we had 5FW, and then finally we had 5F. Okay, now all of these sections, we don't want to go to the next section because then it's going to be choose your name from there, now choose your name from here, choose your name from here. That's not what we want. We want it, once you've filled out the name, to go to section 5. Go to section 5 and go to section 5. Okay, so now what we also want is this question, this one here, to send you to the correct section based on the answer from these 3 options. So if we go on to the three dots here, there is a go to section based on answer. Press that, it gives you these options here saying where do you want to go. If you say 5TW, we obviously want you to go to 5TW. If we go to click on 5SW, we want to go to 5SW. And finally, if we click on 5F, we want to go to 5F. Okay, so I've set that now so that, let's just go on the preview, so that I choose class and who I read to, hit next, and it takes me to 5SW. Go back one. If I choose 5F, press next, it'll take me to 5F. And then now I need to put the name section in here, but after that, and I hit next again, it will then take me to the reading comments. Okay, so let's come out of that moment. And, oh, I don't know why that's come up. Let's just get rid of that. Okay. So now what I want to do is in this section, 5TW, I want to add a question, which is name. And I want this to be a drop-down list. And then I'll type in my names. I'm just going to make up a few names. Don't use full names because obviously then GDPR, but I would have to put in a surname initial just in case you've got more than one person with that same first name. Sarah S. And we'll put one more. We'll put okay, so I've got my 4 names in there now. Hit required on that. Obviously, you do the same for that. You'd have a full class list. You'd expect to see maybe 30 names or however many children in your class on each of these ones. And then when I go onto the preview now, so I know it's 5TW that I've done so far. 5TW, teacher, support staff, next. I've now got my name one. Okay, so I choose that one and then hit next. I can then fill in, and I'm just going to literally fill in this with ABC just across, just so that in the next kind of videos later on, I can show you how that has been sent to a Google Sheet. So I hit submit, and then that's now gone. Okay, and we can see on the Google form, I've now got one response, which has got, it shows that 5TW 100%, and it also shows if I go on to the individual, it shows you who has read and what they filled in. Okay, this could be used for looking at children's reading records. However, as I mentioned in the very first video, we did have over 20,000 comments, which was split across a reception form, a Key Stage 1 form, and a Key Stage 2 form. This year, I've kind of honed in a bit more to make it year group specific, but it still will be a lot of comments as you hit kind of April time onwards, or even before that. It's going to be a lot of comments to kind of filter through. So you're best off setting up Google Sheets, which I'll come to later. The next step I'm going to talk about is how I created the Google site, which is the kind of parent interface to fill out this form as well. Okay, so that is how I've used Google Forms as the first section completed.